This is David with Corel Trainer.
This is Cassie Green from Apparelist.
This is Gordon Firemark from the Entertainment Law Update.
And you're listening to
Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs RG, Regular Guy, and Aaron Montgomery.
The place to be for industry news.
the best dad jokes on earth, along with relevant topics to apparel decorators.
Prepare for the ride.
All right, welcome in to today's show. It is Friday, May 15th, 2026, sort of. I'm Terry Combs, and you can find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery from Super Gamut and our Success Group. And this week, Terry, you and I get to do a little host show. I'm coming to you from a hotel room here, and we're going to talk some DTF 101, kind of something interesting, right? Like I've been getting, obviously, with my time with Super Gamut, more and more into the DTF world. You've been knee deep in it, you know, with your relationships and selling the Epson printers and stuff like that. So I think this is a really good topic because we're going to try to hit like the whole process. Yeah. I think sometimes people get stuck into the, hey, what about my printer? What about my ink or my film or my powder? What about, you know, the application side of it? But I don't think enough people look at it from kind of start to finish so they can see where their real bottlenecks, where their real challenges might be. And just, I think you and I've learned enough along the way here that we can share some thoughts. So that sounds like a good idea for our show here today.
Yeah, I think so. And a little hint for the quiz, there's no magic button on these machines, just like a DTG printer, no magic button.
No magic button. Very good point. Very good point.
All right.
Now, if you guys are jumping into the comment section here, please do that. But just know that we will not be responding. And it's not because your comment's not good or your question's not good or your thought's not good. It's just this happens to be recorded because I am going to be teaching a class in the middle of this show. And it just didn't work out for Terry to kind of jump on with somebody else. So
right now as you're watching, Aaron is leading a panel.
That's right. I am. I think I'm probably teaching the myth of everyone is your customer. And
very good. Very good.
The secret sauce on that one, so to speak, Terry, is that's not true. Not everybody's your customer. In fact, I think you said to me one time, not everybody with money in their wallet is your customer. So
exactly right.
All right. Well, speaking of secret sauce, Terry.
Yeah, make sure you stay till the very end for today's secret sauce. Cassie Green's from Apparelist will be bringing the sauce today. Cassie always brings the good stuff, so make sure you stay tuned for that.
Absolutely. And I'm excited. We're going to start bringing some new people in. You might see some others besides Cassie. We've reached out to several people, and I just have to coordinate some time. So if you are somebody that would like to share a secret sauce segment, just looking for 3 to 5 minutes of just what's your secret sauce? What's the thing that maybe people don't think about or realize, and something that people can use every day? We know people go to the secret sauce playlist, and so you can become an expert in the space, Terry. I think really cool opportunity there.
I think everybody has something to share, and you know what it is, and so make sure you reach out to us and share it.
Absolutely. So reach out at info@tworegularguys.com. So next up, we've got Teresa Hagel with ASI, and she is going to be bringing us the news here. She recorded this for us, so we appreciate that. So, Terry, are you ready to hear from Teresa with the news?
Absolutely. Let's hear it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Hegel, Executive Editor of Special Projects and Sustainability at ASI, and I have some great headlines to share with you today. First up, Counselor Top 40 supplier Gildan has released its 22nd sustainability report, highlighting the progress that it's made toward a variety of environmental and social responsibility goals. Among the highlights, Gildan is now sourcing 100% of its cotton sustainably and began using a third-party platform to strengthen its cotton traceability. The supplier also said that it reduced water use intensity by 25% compared to a 2018 baseline, and it increased its use of recycled polyester and alternative fibers to more than a quarter. Next up, I wanted to highlight a story that was published in ASI's magazine Print and Promo Marketing. This is about drinkware, which actually makes up about 10% of revenue in promo. In this feature story, my colleague Hannah Rosenberger explains how suppliers are using different techniques like premium decoration, personalization, and trend-driven designs to elevate drinkware. Suppliers are helping brands boost visibility by turning drinkware into mobile billboards with full wrap graphics, tactile finishes, and social media friendly aesthetics. She concludes that the most effective drinkware campaigns combined strong design with practical everyday use, increasing long-term brand exposure and customer engagement. And finally, today we have some acquisition news. Counselor Top 40 distributor Simpress has agreed to purchase German brands Saxoprint and Via Printo. Simpress is the parent company of Vistaprint, National Pen, and Counselor Top 40 supplier Gold Star. With this new deal, Simpress is acquiring CEWE's commercial print segment, which includes Saxoprint and Via Printo, and bringing the businesses under its Print Brothers division. The acquisition strengthens Simpress's production footprint in Germany and will enable cross-company fulfillment efficiencies. The deal is expected to close in the first half of fiscal year 2027, pending approvals. All right, that's all the news I have for you today. Thank you so much and have a great weekend.
All right, Teresa. Well, thank you so much for bringing us the news. Make sure that you guys are subscribed over there at asicentral.com and always doing great stuff. Love everything she's doing with sustainability and just all of the news. She's such a great bridge for us, Terry, with the promotional products world and our apparel world, right? Those two things are really more the same than we realize, but sometimes having Teresa here is a great bridge for us here with the promotional products world.
Yeah, ever since we started bringing in outside news folks, we've gotten so much more great information. Teresa and ASI, they have their fingers on the pulse of the industry, so they do a great job over there. So Aaron, you came to us with a dad joke, or you are the facilitator of a dad joke. Tell us about that.
I am. Yeah, I will bring it to you. But before we do that, our friend James Ortolani from Hicks Corporation, he sent me a message on Facebook and said, here's a dad joke for you. He said, I figure you could always use one. And we're always open. So if you have a dad joke, send it our way. But are you ready for this one, Terry?
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, Terry. So a pirate walks into a bar wearing a paper towel on his head. And the bartender said to him, what's with the paper towel? And the pirate replied, "Arr, there's a bounty on me head." All right, so that's my pirate impression, by the way.
That was very good pirate, yeah.
Thank you.
Good job, James. Thank you. James has sent us a few dad jokes over the years.
That's true. That's very true. So thank you very much, James, and appreciate that very much. So if you guys have dad jokes, again, info@2regularguys. All right, Terry. Well, let's take care of some housekeeping here, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Yeah, before we dive in, we want to thank everybody for checking out the Two Regular Guys podcast. We still need your voices. We would love to have the regulators participate in our show intros. Go to osg.link/intro, read a few sentences, be a part of every show. Do not be left out. We are always looking for new guests. So if you or anyone you know would like to join us, go to calendly.com/2 regular guys. To book a future episode, or email us at info@2regularguys.com with any of your show ideas. If you're listening to the podcast version of the show, we would appreciate you sharing the Two Regular Guys podcast with all of your industry friends so they can become regulators too. We would appreciate you giving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, wherever you do your podcast listening, we are there. And as Aaron mentioned before, if you're watching us live right now, please join in with your comments and add your thoughts to the chat. Even for the other folks watching live right now, and for all the folks who watch later on, your comments will be there for them to see as well.
Excellent. Yeah, good point, Terry. Awesome. Well, let's dive into this, Terry. So our idea here is we're really kind of want to break down DTF, right? Like the title of the show is DTF Done Right, building a printing process that actually pays. That's what our good friends at Skynet came up with for us here. But what does that mean to you, Terry? Like you said earlier, there's not a magic bullet, magic
Right.
button to push.
Yeah, it's like everything else in life. When it looks like all you have to do is push that magic button, there's always more to learn. And Aaron, my this struck me 20 years ago because I'd been teaching screen printing classes for quite a while, and man, people had their junior yellow legal pad and they're just writing and writing, flipping pages and writing, and we started doing DTG classes, and as soon as I would start talking, or you would start talking about business, marketing, pricing, the pens would all go down. They'd be looking at their phones. And I thought, oh my gosh, we've created a monster here. What we've done is we've made it look so easy that people really believe all they have to do is load a shirt and push a button. And there's more to it than that. There's always more to learn. There's always nuances. So that's what this show is all about. I think just kind of going through the bullet points, and you were kind enough to share a seminar that you had done, and I went through and I grabbed out some topics out of your seminar, and so let's start walking through and let me read the first one: artwork and gang sheets.
Yeah, I think that's a really important piece to it, right? Like, I can't even remember where it was, but we were talking about something, and it was kind of garbage in, garbage out. Oh, it was at church. That was one of the sermons, kind of garbage in, garbage out. But the reality is that's I'm like, oh, I get that, right? We deal with that in the printing world every day. You get garbage in, garbage out. So artwork is really important part of this, Terry. And I think people don't quite realize it. Like I saw something on a Facebook group recently where somebody was asking for a different type of V-neck shirt because the ones that they found were too thin, and therefore the DTF transfers felt really heavy. And my immediate reaction was, well, your DTF transfers aren't good, right? Your artwork's not good. Are you half toning?
Yeah.
Are you doing the different things you need to do? So let's talk artwork real quick, and then we can talk to gang sheets. What else on artwork kind of stands out for you?
Well, it's the same for every different type of technology in our industry. You have to know what the technology you're using before you're creating that artwork. And yes, I can do the same image on a DTG machine and a DTF machine, and I can screen print it. But I have to approach it from a different direction. And probably the biggest thing that Dane Clement shared on this show was to do two things: to give you shades of color, and to lighten the heaviness of the print is to use halftone dots. And me as a screen printer, I'm printing 55 dots per inch all day long. But for somebody doing DTF printing, you're never going to hold that 55 line dot. You're never going to be able to get enough adhesive on the back of that ink droplet to make it stick to the shirt. So what our friend Dane shared with us is if you do 20 DPI halftone dots, that's enough heft that it will hold on to the adhesive, and the adhesive will hold on to the shirt, and you're going to have that nice soft feel, nice shading with halftone dots. So that's my contribution that was from a secret sauce from not very long ago.
Yeah. And I think, I love Dane's point, right? Like, and I was actually talking with Dane some of the nuances of that, because I know, in our booth at the trade shows, for example, we're Super Gamut, we've got some stuff that's got much smaller dots than that 20 DPI dot. And, so there's a reason that we kind of go a little bit like that. And yes, if you were to get real picky and you take that sheet and you start feeling around, you're going to notice that there is some ink, right? There was some stuff that didn't quite make it. So I think, again, if you want a really clean print and really kind of crispness, that's the way to go. We've kind of intentionally gone a little bit smaller, and left a little bit on there, because it does soften it just a little bit. Now, again, going on, you got to really also understand what color shirt you're going on to, right? Like if we were to try to produce these samples that we have on anything other than a black shirt, it's just not going to look right, and that loss is not going to work, right? So I think that's an important part of the artwork side of it, as well as just understanding what you're going on to, and any way that you can knock out. I think you and I, when we first started talking DTF, I remember a lot of people, especially screen printers and whatnot, like it's just too thick, right? It feels like an old transfer.
Yeah.
And I think it's getting better and better as the technology's improved there, but it still has that feel to it, right? I mean, you've got an ink and you've got an adhesive. So there are layers there. This is not DTG where it's just ink going down, right? So I think what you do with your artwork is so crucial to make sure that it doesn't feel all yucky, so to speak, right?
And Aaron, there's two approaches to this. You guys at Super Gamut, you're trying to push the envelope a little bit. You're trying to experiment and see, where can I go with this? On the flip side, Dane is teaching a lot of folks who are really new to this, and 20 DPIs is safe, and so well, either way is okay.
100%. And
push the envelope.
Actually, I hope Dane doesn't get mad at me for sharing this information, but part of that is like, he works for stalls. He works with stalls, and for them, they send a transfer out. They're so prolific that they're going to have people upset if not every droplet of ink comes off that transfer, right? So, they're going to, like you said, this is guaranteed to get a great transfer, 20 DPI. So again, I think you've got to, as a printer, you've got to understand what your customers want, right? Like some customers, you said this to me too, like the customers don't care as much about the hand feel as we do.
Correct. And
right.
And that was a big surprise to me, Aaron, because I'm a screen printer, translates to a garment decorating snob, and and so the feel, I thought, oh, people aren't going to like this, and I talk to screen printers all the time who say that, no, my customers would never accept this. But yes, they are. They're accepting it every day. Every time they order a shirt from Amazon or wherever, chances are pretty darn good it's DTF, and they're happy with it. It's us. We decorators are the ones that are kicking and screaming a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So artwork, very important. The other thing that was kind of a new to me as getting more into this, right, is this whole concept of a gang sheet. So for anybody that doesn't know, Terry, a gang sheet is basically, okay, I'm going to print this stuff out on film, but let's say I've got a 24-inch wide printer or a 17-inch wide printer, right? And I've got to turn that on. I don't know if it's a commercial grade printer, you're going to turn it on. It's going to go through an oven, a curing oven, a shaker dryer, as they call them. And so you don't want to just send one thing, right? You don't want to just send one piece of artwork. You need to gang up all of your artwork and do a run. And so they call that a gang sheet. And, I've known people and still know people that will basically get all their artwork together. They'll go into Corel or Illustrator or whatever their preferred software is, and they'll start laying everything out and, spending hours and hours and hours building a gang sheet that then they can send to their printer and let it run however long their gang sheet's going to be. So I think that was an interesting thing that I think the industry had to kind of get our arms around. I know in kind of the sublimation world, they've been doing that a little bit. Like, for example, Wasatch on their RIP on the wider format sublimation stuff has got like an auto nesting feature, they call it, where you just put it all in there and it lays it all out, right? And then these softwares started coming out that were gang sheet builders, right? So I've got a couple other quick points on the gang sheet stuff, but anything you want to drop in there, Terry, before I keep going too far here?
You're exactly right. And for anybody who's not familiar with nesting, basically taking every image and putting it together like a puzzle, using every available inch of that film, and getting as much use out of the film as you possibly can. So yeah.
It's so funny because I've seen some people, that are the hardcore, I'm going to do it myself in Corel, and they spend all this time and they got everything like nested in there, like just perfectly together. And then I'm going, how much extra time does it take you to cut those transfers out? I mean, good grief.
Exactly right.
Whatever, like half a micron of a penny that you're saving by nesting that thing so freaking close together.
And they're all like octagons. And
oh, yeah. Like if I can't go zip, no,
right.
Thank you.
Right, 100%.
Yeah. So anyhow, that's another part of it, right? You got to have a way to do that. At Super Gamut, we actually have a gang sheet builder that it's a plug-in for Shopify and some of the e-commerce platforms out there that our equipment and VIP customers get to use for free. There's a lot of great softwares out there. I think my favorite outside of what we offer at Gangify is a product called Kixel. Goes a little bit further with some of the knockouts and different things like that, and so pretty good software. But we had a customer one time that we were talking to them, and it just was kind of like the end of the conversation, like, oh, and by the way, we give you this Gangify thing for free, and they're like, what's this? And they were using another software, starts with an A, and that's all. I'll just leave it at that. And they were looking at a $45,000 printer and the lease payment on that. And they said, well, if you're giving that to us for free, then we can get rid of paying for this service. And that actually covers our lease payment.
Is that crazy?
So they got a printer for free just because we gave them this gang sheet builder, right? So it's a big deal. It's a big part of it. You can be customer facing with it and let people, you send them transfers, or people will just do that as part of their workflow. So again, when we're talking about the big picture of things, Terry, this is something we have to be aware of.
Yeah.
Is what's the workflow? So back to what I said about, go ahead, Terry.
I was just going to say, and as your business grows, I mean, maybe this isn't really important to you today. Like you were saying, trimming around artwork, in and out and up and down, that's not important today. But as you get busier, and I couldn't tell you how many people I've talked to who've gotten into DTF where their businesses exploded. I know my friend Charlie in Pittsburgh, he runs 7 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day, and he's running 3 or 4 DTF printers right now. And there's no end in sight. And he's a sign printer. And he's like, I don't have time to do signs anymore. All I can do is fill tubes with 100 of this transfer and 200 of that transfer, and call the UPS guy. So
and so I guess my point to that, right? Like I appreciate that. That's exactly where I wanted to head, which is great, Terry. Is we have to be thinking about that. We have to be thinking ahead. Right. And so, kind of this idea of how we're going to make more money with DTF. Well, first off, get your time back, right? Stop spending so much time trimming and give yourself plenty of space so you can go zip, 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 right? And don't put things like this, right? Like, okay, let's put it down this line, down this line, down this line, and set enough margin in there and all that kind of fun stuff. I used to do that. Like I would buy like a gang sheet from the Transfer Depot folks, the Super Gamut folks, and I would like go in and kind of manually manipulate it because I wanted to get 2 more logos in there, and then I would give it to my wife because she does a lot of the production for us at our house, and she was like, "Nope, you cut these out." I'm like, "Damn it, all right." I get it. I'm sorry.
You save 2 inches of film and you gain 15 minutes of cutting time.
Exactly. And the ire of my wife. So, that cost right there. So, I think, just looking at that, right, that's important and how you go about that. So Why don't we, anything else on the artwork or the gang sheets, Terry, before we
No,
jump
I
into
think
RIP software?
we should probably keep moving so we get all of our topics covered here.
Yeah.
RIP software, you can't do any of this without RIP software, and it's a function of lots of what we do in the industry. So what's your take on proper RIP software use?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, for those that aren't familiar with it, RIP just stands for Raster Image Processor.
Right.
So the idea is we have to take this piece of artwork, we have to get it so it's printing out in the right format, right? We have to put colors down first, white on top of that so it can get the powder. You got to have that white underbase, right? So the RIP software does a lot of that translation there, basically telling the printer, okay, this piece of art needs you to fire this kinds of droplets, this amount, this order. It's kind of like your printer and your computer, they speak two different languages, and the RIP software is the translator, right? So I think I've explained that correctly, Terry. Anything to add there?
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. And sublimation printers use RIP software. Screen printers use RIP software to make film positives. All it's doing is translating to that printer a different thought process, and it's different for each type of decoration. As you mentioned, color first, white last. And as a screen printer, white first, color last. So it just translates for all different areas of the industry. So clearly you have to have a RIP software that's specific to DTF printing.
Correct. And then, what goes into that, right? Then the other side of it is it also is responsible for the color, right? So if you want to make sure, if your profiles aren't correct, right? Like if you buy a printer and it comes with a RIP software and you kind of get the off the shelf thing, okay, you're going to be pretty close, but it really should be dialed in, right? It really should be color adjusted, so the different RIP softwares, you basically print out color charts and then you start reading them in, and it, says you use a spectrophotometer and do that, right? And so is that something that a printer needs to do? I don't think so necessarily, Terry. I think you need to have access to somebody that does.
Right.
One of the things that we do at Super Gamut is we go out on site and make sure that they are set up, right? We'll start with an out of the box profile, but we work with them to make sure that it's hitting what they need to hit, right? Like if you've got a school there that always needs this red to be that red, then you need to make sure that that's dialed in. So the proper profiles for your RIP is really important. So what are your thoughts there?
And specific to your ink system, if you're using ABC ink over here and get everything dialed in, oh, hey, XYZ ink is $10 less a liter, and you switch to XYZ, guess what? Your colors are going to start not being exactly right because you're dialed into ABC. So you can't be jumping around from ink brand to ink brand.
Yeah. I'm laughing out loud here because I had a conversation with somebody at Printing United last year, and she was really struggling with her printer, and again, just kind of going back and forth, and I kept saying, well, what's your ink manufacturer telling you? Like, what are they doing to fix this? Well, they're overseas, so they can't help me. So you need to help me. Like, hold on a second. I can't help you. I don't know their inks. We don't, if maybe you could pay somebody to come out and try to do a custom profile for you. But again, you are saving money on this ink, yet your printer's not printing. You're wasting all this film trying to get it to work. You're spending all this time, heartache and headache to save, like you said, a couple of bucks on a liter of ink. And typically that cheaper ink is not very consistent, right? So one batch might come in and it works okay, and you've spent all the money and time to get it dialed in, and the next batch comes in and everything's off again. Well, again, if you can't get any support from your ink supplier, then you're going to be in trouble. And you need to limit the ink, right? And so that's the other part of the RIP process, is it limits the ink and gives you that white density. that you need to get a good transfer, a good adhesive transfer. So, yeah, I've got one more point on that, but I don't want to keep stealing
No,
all
go
your
ahead.
thunder.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to talk. So one of the other things that that I've seen is that people will go out and try to, save nickels or whatever it is on the inks, but then the only way they get enough ink opacity is they've got it all the way up to 100.
Yeah.
And with the Super Gamut recipe, we don't get anywhere close to 100. So even though the ink as a liter next to the other ink as a liter might be a little bit more expensive, at the end of the day, it's consistent and you're using less of it, so you get a lot further. And so your ink cost is actually cheaper. It just doesn't
Yeah.
show up on that first invoice, right? So
Right.
I think that's a hard thing for people to wrap their heads around as well.
Yeah, Aaron, you recall 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a secret sauce, and go listen to that. It's not always cheaper in China in the
Yes.
long run. And another example in DTG printing, I had someone tell me, you can't make any money in DTG, and I'm like, well, lots of people do. And he goes, at $7 a print. And I'm like, whoa! You're using $7 worth of ink, and what are you printing on? Gildan. Well, Gildan is a fine shirt, but it's not a fine shirt for DTG printing because it's very porous. And so they were having to lay down so much white ink, it was costing them $7 a print when in fact it should have been more like $2 a print. So, this is true across the spectrum. Saving nickels and
that
dimes.
shirt was
it's
cheaper by
tricky business.
$1, but it cost you $5 more to print it. Huh. And I think people, and I get it, right? We get so laser focused. We're like, okay, I got to get a little less expensive shirt because that's what I quoted. But this is why I think this was such an important session for us to put on, is we wanted people to see the big picture and start thinking about what is happening on the big picture, not just in these micro, I got to have a cheaper ink, a cheaper film, this or that, right? So what a great story, Terry. And it's like, again, $1 cheaper for a shirt, but you're spending $5 more for ink.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. That's insane.
And blaming the printer. You can't make any money with this process. Can't be done.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm thinking, well, I know hundreds of people who bought machines from me who would differ with that opinion.
Yeah, exactly.
But
again, I think this is why it's so important for us to share stuff like this, Terry, because it allows people to step back for a second and just say, okay, let me think about where maybe I'm doing that to myself, right? Like every time we have a show like this, I can remember a time, or maybe there's a time where I'm doing something like that myself, where it's like, okay, yep, good reminder. Look at the big picture, and it'll be more effective and less time consuming as well.
Well, and how many times have we had the conversation? But it was just such a good deal. Was it? Was it such a good deal?
Yeah.
But so let's see. We're halfway through here. Let's talk a little bit about printers and ink, and let me just start with one comment that I want to make about printers. Choosing a printer should be based in large part on support. Everybody needs support on this equipment. We'll go back to China, but it's $2,000 less in China. Is it? Is it $2,000 less in China once you get it here, and it becomes a paperweight? So, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's 100% right there, Terry. I mean, if you can't feel really good about the support you're going to get for it, then it better be less expensive times 2, right? Like you need to buy 2 of those machines, so you have one for parts and everything else that you need, right? Like, because that's part of the support. Like, at Super Gamut, not only do we have the equipment, but we have a warehouse full of parts and people that know how to engage with those parts and make sure that we can diagnose any situations that are going on and answer your calls on a Saturday when you need to get up and running. So there's cost involved with that, and so it's not that companies like Super Gamut and others are trying to gouge you and take advantage because they're a US based company. It's like, no, we need to be able to be there for you to be able to take care of this. So I think that's a really important point that you made there, Terry.
Well, yeah, and dealers, yeah, and people will say, excuse me, that all these machines are made in China anyway. Yes, but U.S. dealers bring them in, test them, improve upon them, and stand behind them. Ordering from a company, in Asia directly shipped to you. I have rarely ever heard where somebody was successful doing that, and trust me, somebody's going to say, no, my deal worked out great, maybe, but there are far more stories of, oh man, I just made the biggest mistake in my life. So
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
talking a little bit about inks, some different options there. And I'll start. Most machines on the market are CMYK and white. CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. K for keyline. CMYK, just like your desktop printer. So CMYK and white is perfect for traditional printing. Like if I would consider myself a local screen printer, and so I'm printing for the PTO. I'm printing for Joe's Towing. I'm printing for a local Irish pub. CMYK and white is ideal for that. But Aaron, talk to us a little bit about expanded gamut.
Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned with my time with Super Gamut is that DTF inks in particular, because of the process and the way that it works, the color gamut of DTF CMYK is much smaller than, let's say, you're doing CMYK with sublimation, for example, onto a garment. We can get a lot more expanded colors through just regular CMYK with sublimation because of the process and the inks and all that other stuff. But with DTF, our gamut's much smaller. Now, like you said, will it work for most people? 100%, right? Like I think, it's just fine. But you're going to get somebody at some point that says, hey, I need this red or this green, or I need something a little more fluorescent looking, right? Things like that. And so, at Super Gamut, we've really tried to push the envelope. In fact, we're working on a 13 color actually, but we've got 9 color systems out there, which then include the red, green, orange, and a blue. It's a violet-y type blue. We call it a super blue. And those extend our gamut. In fact, you add about, depending on your RIP software and how good it's set up, we've been able to see about 200 to 250,000 additional colors in the gamut that you can hit. And so that's a big deal. And I've heard the argument quite a bit where, if you are good at dialing in your CMYK, you don't need extended gamut. I mean, it's just not true. Like we can take their dialed in version and show you the map of what you're not going to be able to hit. And so you want those really kind of bright poppy greens and yellows and if you have to hit Coca-Cola red or John Deere green, the extended gamut is really worth it. So, the other part that I like about the extended gamut is we actually have found that we're limiting our inks even more with the extended gamut compared to CMYK. And so again, you're using less ink to generate the same types of colors, and which saves you money in the long run.
Yeah, and so it depends on what your marketplace is. When the last really large screen printing operation that I ran, we were exclusive in the college bookstore market. Well, anybody who's selling into, especially to colleges and a lot of high schools too, you have to hit Indiana red. You have to hit Michigan blue. It has to be exactly Tennessee orange is not orange with a little bit of white ink in it. It is a specific orange color that is not easy to hit. And so, if that's your marketplace or your chosen marketplace, then you might have to go another step into an expanded gamut to hit that. On the flip side, the local decorator maybe doesn't need to worry about that. Or you've got one customer that needs John Deere green, then you job it to somebody that has the expanded gambit opportunity. So
Absolutely, absolutely. And Terry, just like kind of before we move into the next kind of part of the process here in film, as we've kind of talked about with the RIP and stuff like that, the printer and ink and that ink delivery, that system that you talked about, right? Like, oh, well, I got this, but this is cheaper, so I'm going to save $5 on these inks, right? Like, it's a recipe kind of from start to finish that really makes these things sing. It's the full recipe, right? The printer being able to do it, because then the next part is film and then the powder, and that's also crucial to the recipe. But that shaker and oven that goes on the back side of it is also really important, right? I've seen too many printers that can do a lot more, but their powder shakers can't keep up, right? And so they're either getting a lot of crackling and things are starting to brown a little bit, just because they can't dial it up as fast as you can go, right? Like the powder shaker that we've got with our cracking machine, it's a beast. I just loaded it onto a trailer, so my hands feel it right now. It's a freaking beast because it needs to be able to sing. Yeah.
We're recording this show much later than we anticipated. I was hanging around the house. Aaron was loading the truck. But it's Aaron, when we talk about
So,
we've talked about the different.
I just wanted to hit that part before we get.
Well, it's when you kept saying formula, and it made me think, you want to go with quality, because you're never going to win the county fair best apple pie with a store brand crust under it. And that's these discount inks, man, that's store brand crust. So be the best at what you do, not the person who saved the most money in the process.
What is it? Do good work.
Well, Aaron, film. There have been some development film. I'm sorry.
I just said, what was it again? Do good work, deliver on time.
Oh yeah, that's the secret. We could just stop right there. But
Exactly.
Talk about film out there. It's thermoplastic polyurethane film. We in the dealer end of this are just inundated with new film companies all the time, and so we're doing the hard work for you. We're out there testing it, and it all started out cold peel, then it was hot peel, then it was instant peel, but I think that the films on the market today are night and day improvement on what they were just a couple of years ago. If you're doing cut sheets, you want film that's coated on both sides. And are you going to print on both sides? No. But if it's coated on both sides, it's going to lay flat. And by cut sheets, I'm talking about folks who print DTF transfers on their DTG printers, which you can do all day long. I personally have lots of customers that use their DTG printers for both garments and to make DTF transfers and cut sheets. But Aaron, what are your thoughts on the films of today?
Yeah. Like you said, they've come a long way. I would say in today's world, as of May 15th, 2026 here, if you're not using kind of an insta peel, kind of a hot peel, it may be time to look for a new recipe.
Yeah.
I think that films that are at this point, you need to be able to peel right away, just sheer production needs, right?
Yeah.
And then you mentioned about being coated on both sides for the sheets. I would say make sure that your film's coated on both sides for the rolls as well.
Yeah.
So if you
I
think
agree.
about how these printers print, they go through a pinch roller, right? So it's friction fed. And a lot of people end up having vertical alignment issues on their printer, and they think that there's something wrong with the printer. But what's really happening is the pinch roller on this top is catching the coating, but the pinch roller on the bottom is, because there's no coating on it, is slipping a little bit. This little micro slips, and it
Yeah.
actually starts getting your film cockeye or out of whack or out of alignment. And so, yeah, I think having a double-sided film is pretty crucial tool to have in there too. It's just going to make things feed quick better. And again, you're not printing on both sides, but that's the reason why you want it coated on both sides. So I think that's about it on film. Again, Instapeel coated both sides, even in those commercial roll units, I think is the way to go.
The next topic, and here I feel like I'm stealing your stuff. I'm reading all these topics that I took right out of your outline.
Yeah,
But,
but I took them from you, so it's all good.
well, I guess we both done a lot of seminars on this. But
Yes, we have.
adhesive powder, adhesive powder is polyurethane resin. Let me say right up front, this is the exact same adhesive powder that screen printers have been using for decades. And
Yeah.
so this isn't some new invention,
Yeah.
just more finely ground because of the water-based ink that we're holding on to. So
Yeah.
my 2 cents worth on adhesive powder.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, and I will hit a couple of high points on this. If you want to talk to somebody that is like geek level powder guy, the owner of Super Gamut, Rob Super, he will, I get him going on this topic every once in a while, and he'll just go and go and go, because it is really important, right? Because the powder is like a combination of a few different things, and getting that formula right makes it softer, but also washable, all sorts of different stuff. And then it's all about kind of the microns. As you mentioned, it's ground a little bit finer than the old screen printing adhesive is, but you don't want to go too far with it. It's still early on, but once you start getting really, because people are like, oh, if I just go finer with it, then it'll be softer and we won't have as much hand feel. Well, the problem is then it doesn't wash as well. It doesn't stick to the white as well. And now you're putting a really, really fine powder into the air. And so, safety concerns, I know there's all sorts of back and forth, and we won't get into the weeds on this. But everything that Super Gamut offers is all Okeotech certified at the highest level. So, child friendly and all that other stuff. So I feel pretty comfortable with it, right? I've been around a lot of it lately and don't have any issues with it. So
Yeah.
again, those are just some of the kind of high level things to look for, is making sure that the blend is right, so you get the washability that you need, along with the adhesion, and how does it come off the, how does that help the ink pull off the film and all that kind of fun stuff. So again,
I feel like we're
if you
talking
really
race
wanna get
cars. Make sure the blend is right in that fuel.
That's right. Right. But if you really want to get in the weeds with that, just reach out to Rob Super. I'll put you in touch.
Well, and my comment about safety is all these safety concerns came from, there was a company that tried to introduce a liquid adhesive and then poo-pooed to everybody in the industry how dangerous the powder was, except for the liquid adhesive didn't work. Guess what? Their next machine had powder. You never heard it again. But you heard the stories for the next 2 years. Well, this guy told me that I can't have it in my house and this and that. If you look it up, it will tell you that it can cause respiratory or eye irritation. That's the worst I could find that about this powder. So just be smart. don't be flipping it in the air and, you know, but
Snorting it.
yeah, snorting it. Oh, there was a situation where, Epson says you can't even have it close to your DTG printer because people were making transfers on Epson printers. And I talked to the product manager about it. He goes, "Oh my God, you know what that really meant? It really meant that people were printing the transfer and then on the machine, they were like sprinkling the powder onto the transfer while it sat on the platen." He goes, and then we had all these machines that had this fine powder inside on the print head and on the gears. And he goes, it had nothing to do with safety. It had to do with, let's keep this machine running. So
Yeah.
anyway, the
Yeah.
stories can get a little mixed up out there. So I'll end with that. Aaron, let's talk about powder shaker dryers, dusters. This is the only part of the whole process where we've never really come down to what we're going to call this machine.
That's true. It's true. We tend to call them dusters. I'm not sure. We just took the last word, but yeah. This is a really important part. I already kind of talked a little bit about the fact that your duster needs to actually match up with the capabilities of your printer and how you've got it set up with the RIP software and stuff like that. So that's a crucial piece. I know for you, Terry, you've got like a real practical piece of advice.
A bit, well, yeah. Let's start with this. Does it fit through your doorway? Sorry, I was distracted. There was a gnat flying around, and if anybody's
I saw
watching
that.
us, you saw me reach for it. But yeah, does it fit through your doorway? Because Aaron, you know me. I'm like, okay, your doorway must be this size. And I had somebody call me up, and he said, "Hey, what can I take off this machine so I can fit it through my, I don't know, 40-inch doorway?" Nothing. That's why I told you your doorway has to be this big.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
anyway, and there are different sizes of powder shaker dryer dusters will determine how big of a printer you can have. Maybe your location only has room for a 17-inch wide printer because of the size of your doorway. The Epson printer, it will fit. It's a 36-inch printer, and it has a shorter powder shaker dryer duster. That's not going to work for me.
Yeah, you have to work on that.
that will fit through a normal interior doorway. But ask that question to start with. Can I get this through my doorway? And then follow with, and what is the power requirement?
Yeah.
Sometimes, a lot of these machines are 220. A lot of them are. The bigger they are, the more they're going to be 220. But some of the smaller machines are 110. But what does it draw? There are machines out there on some of the smaller machines, but they're 25 amp. That's not necessarily something you're going to plug into your wall in your dining room that you've now converted to your production facility.
Yeah.
So ask those kind of questions as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the amperage is really important there to understand it, because, oh, well, I've got an open plug here. Well, yeah, but you've got lights, you've got this and that, and next thing you know, every time you turn on your dryer, you're popping your breaker, and But the other, I think you hit it right. Like, funny enough, story here. Our friend Sean Stewart, who's with us with me at Super Gamut, he tells a story where
sorry, that's right.
Paper ranch guy. That's right. That's
always
where
go back to where I first met people.
Yeah, and that's where we met Sean. So Sean was out on an install, and same thing. Told her what size the door was. It was even in the pre-install, the whole thing. Get there, yeah, the dryer doesn't fit through the door. So Sean got a Sawzall, cut their wall, and got the dryer in. So be prepared to cut your wall open if you didn't read the pre-install. But and then, like you said, the power is also very.
Real quick story. I'll try to be quick. A guy raises his hand saying, "I didn't realize." Well, this was for a DTG printer. He didn't realize he could put it on its end and take it through a door. So he says, "I cut out my door," and I'm like, "Oh man, that's too bad." And he goes, "On both sides." I'm like, "Oh, Really? You couldn't cut it a little bit further on this side to make it fit through? Okay, sorry. I just said
Wow.
I have to tell that story about once a month.
Yeah, I think, man,
The whole it was a seminar, had probably 150 people in there, and everybody just like moaned when he said both sides of my door.
oh gosh.
Anyway,
Oh, all right. Well, some people will struggle, but all right. So yeah, power also really important, like you mentioned, and really because yes, if you're going to have a commercial dryer, those do pull a little bit more. A lot of them, like you said, are 220, and so and 220, how many phases too? So we've seen people burn up their dryer bulbs and burn up boards on their dryer because they hired an electrician and the electrician didn't pay attention to how many phases it needed and had some issues there too. So be really aware of what you're going to need there, and you may have to hire an electrician.
yes, I highly recommend that, unless your father-in-law or somebody happens to be an electrician. So, Aaron, I entered this. The next thing was pressing, the last part of the process, and I entered what I recommend to do, but I didn't ask you what you recommend to do. So I'm going to read mine, and you can tell me what you recommend. But medium pressure, 7 seconds, immediately peel, 5 seconds more. I like to, on the second press after you peeled it, put a sheet of buckram. Buckram, for anybody who doesn't know, is a very coarse cotton or any coarse fabric. The guys at Stalls were using skateboard grip, that they had a sheet of it and they were putting that to press. And the whole point of that on the second press was to give it a little more softness, give it a little more texture like a shirt rather than a flat piece of film on top of a textured shirt, if that makes sense. But what are your recs?
Yeah, and it's going to certainly vary on your recipe and whatnot. But again, what we're seeing is now the heat, it can also be a factor. So 275, 7 seconds, immediately peel. In fact, in some of these kind of finer halftones and stuff that we're doing, we almost joke that it's self-peeling, because it actually will because we actually do more a heavy, so medium to heavy pressure.
Okay.
Not, I don't. You need to at least have medium pressure. I think with the finer the detail that you have in it, the more pressure you need to get it to peel. So again, 275, 7 seconds, medium to heavy pressure, insta peel, and then a 3 second press, right? Like, okay. I've heard people use canvas, like from a paint canvas, like cut out a paint canvas. Old pair of jeans where they cut out a panel and use that. I've heard the sandpaper thing. I just use, excuse me, personally, I just use a cutout t-shirt, right? Just to kind of give it a t-shirt feel.
A lot of people,
probably not as soft as it could be, but it's easy enough to do.
But I've seen a lot of people do that, use the t-shirt. You're coughing there, and you're just in the shop with that adhesive. Hopefully we're not. No, just kidding.
No, this would be the dust and grime from everything loading into a trailer. So I was outside most of the time. And then one other quick thing here, Terry, that's not really on our outline that I just want to make sure that we hit. We talked about it at the beginning, but cutting is also a pretty crucial step, right? What's your process for cutting? So I've seen, again, if you're setting up your gang sheet in a way that makes sense, I've seen people have like a cross cutter, like a roll cutter that you can use. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of like keep boop, 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 and then you can take scissors and cut the two apart if you're doing side by side. Let's see so cutting can be a big deal. In fact, at Super Gamut, we actually offer a optical laser cutting machine, and so our fastest piece of equipment, the Kraken, runs 600 square feet an hour. and you're going to get carpal tunnel pretty quick doing this, right, at 600 square feet an hour. So this cutting machine will actually cut 1,000 square feet an hour. And it basically is an optical sensor, so you don't need a cutting file to go with it or anything like that. Loads in, cuts out your transfers. It can even do perf cutting. So we have some people that, do transfers for others, and they just perf cut it, so that way they can still roll it onto the roll and stick it in a tube, and then their customers get it, and they don't have to cut it. They just pull out the perf cut, and they've got their transfers ready to go. So cutting something that, when you're starting to get into that volume, there are solutions out there. You just got to be looking for that. And so I think understanding the cutting, the pressing, because this is where your time really starts happening, right? Like you're pushing print, things are going through or coming out, cutting, pressing. That's where your real production time can get eat up pretty quick, right? And you talk about in your screen printing classes, it's that setup and tear down.
Right. 100%. And
think about cutting as your setup. Maybe help us with that analogy.
Well, yeah, exactly. And what you get are bottlenecks in the process. So now these machines are getting faster and faster. So, and we're trying to do a 7-second press, and you're hitting it with a 3-second afterwards. Now, and I get this conversation more and more. People wanting to talk about pneumatic heat presses, dual heat presses. So you're loading a shirt over here and pressing a shirt over there, and vice versa. So it's like squeezing toothpaste out of the tube. You got to find ways to make that a smooth process, and that last bit of toothpaste in the tube is that pressing. And so you're going to be to a point pretty quickly where you're going to be running more than one heat press or running dual pneumatic heat presses, that sort of thing. But that's all progress when you're in a situation where I can't keep up on my heat press. Well, heat presses are not the most expensive thing you're ever going to buy. And the beauty of a good quality heat press, it will last you for years and years and years. So it is a huge investment. I have a friend in the industry. He said that when he bought his dual pneumatic heat press, it was the best investment he'd ever made in his entire business. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Terry. And like you said, I think people kind of shy away from it because there's a little bit of a price jump into the air pneumatics, like you said, but not that much, right? And how much time it saves you, how much, just physical wear on your body, right? To be able to, push a button versus, and all this stuff will pay for that press pretty quick. And then again, with Super Gamut, I've been exposed to these really high level production shops, people that are running this 400, 600 square feet an hour, multiple of those things. You're also starting to see more and more of these carousel heat presses, like the Rock Impress.
Yes.
Freaking cool, man. And just think
amazing
about
to watch.
Yeah. So again, you might not be there right now today, but if you're thinking about your entire process, right, this is where it's heading, because you can make money with the more of these that you do, and the investments will pay for themselves pretty quick on these things. So I think it's important to look at the big picture.
All right, I think we covered it all, my friend.
I think we did too. This has been great. Thank you for this back and forth, and appreciate the opportunity to share what I've been able to learn here in my time, about a year or so, a year and a half, I guess now, with maybe not quite a year and a half, but about a year with Super Gamut now. So it's been a fun ride.
All right. Well, for upcoming events, Eric was going to join us tonight, but the later it got, he has an early day tomorrow, so we set him free. But join Eric later today for the Take Up episode 253 to be announced. Jump in at 2:30 Mountain Time, 4:30 Eastern. Head over to ericcampbell.com and click the take up at the top to access this and all his episodes. Aaron, for me, my complete screen printing business course, upcoming dates with Atlas Screen Supply in Chicago. I'll be there June 6th and 7th. Spoke to them today, and they said there's a couple of seats left. So if you want to come to my screen printing class, go to atlasScreenSupply.com. And I have also classes coming up August 22nd and 23rd, November 7th and 8th. And watch for all my upcoming events at terrycombs.com. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, the next thing for me is the Next Business Builder Accelerator program is starting on June 8th. So once those folks are done at your screen printing class, they can jump into the Business Builder Accelerator. You could get more details at osg.link/builder. And you can also sign up there on that same page for a free no-charge clarity call. So if you're at a place in your business where you're maybe feeling a little bit stuck, scattered, second guessing everything, this clarity call, I think, is a great start just to kind of talk it over with somebody. You guys know me, I'm pretty easygoing, and it is a no judgment. We're just going to talk through things, and I'll share some patterns that I see. And, I'm hearing people that have gone through the accelerator and also that have had these clarity calls with me. Just they're telling me things like, I finally feel clear. I'm more confident in my pricing. So I think, that's kind of my flag, so to speak, Terry, is just helping people have some real clarity and falling back in love with what they get to do. So go to osg.link/builder and you can grab a time there.
If you want to sleep better, take that class.
There you go. I'm going to have Terry write all my marketing copy from now on. I love it. That's good stuff. Sleep better. There it is. All right. Well, we've got secret sauce coming from Cassie here, Terry. So let's jump into that here real quick.
All right. Let's hear it.
Hey, regulators. Welcome to this week's Secret Sauce. I'm extremely grateful that I get to bring it to you this week. Huge shout out to all the guys for allowing me to cook something up for you all. So in case you don't know me, my name is Cassie Green. I am the content director of Apparelist. And this week, our secret sauce recipe is called Intention. Intentionality separates reactive businesses from memorable businesses. I think one of the biggest differences between businesses that grow and businesses that just survive is intention. And I'm really hyper-focused on this in 2026. It sounds really broad at first, but so many conversations I've had this year come back to the same thing. People are stuck operating in reaction mode. They're living deadline to deadline, order to order, email to email, and over time, that creates complacency. So you're busy all day, but you're not actually moving forward with purpose. And honestly, apparel decorators and everyone in this industry are especially vulnerable to this because our industry, it moves really fast, right? There's always another rush order. There's always another production issue. There's always another customer request. And if you're not intentional, your business starts running you instead of the other way around. So for me personally, just going to use myself as an example, intentionality starts every Sunday night. I sit down with my planner, right? And I map out the week. I evaluate and prepare for meetings. I do this with intentionality instead of just showing up and winging it. I prioritize my projects by what actually matters most, not just what's loudest in the moment. So you can kind of see, I've got like a whole task list and everything that I like to write out. And that just helps me make those organizational decisions, right? So I separate my big projects from my smaller tasks so that I intentionally block out do not disturb time for deep work instead of trying to like ping pong and multitasking my way through everything, right? Again, because if you don't control your calendar, somebody else will. But the biggest shift for me has been setting a specific intention each week instead of some sort of vague goal. So what this might look like is not, I want to be productive. It is not, I want to sell more. Those are outcomes, not intentions. So for me, instead, I start with gratitude and purpose when I'm doing my Sunday night planning. So this week, for example, my intention came from recognizing how grateful I am to attend the international trade show FESPA, not just to see the trends that can help my audience, all of you, but to experience a culture and a perspective that I've never experienced before. That intention shaped every decision I made this week. I prepared my newsletter content ahead of time. I finished articles before deadlines. I created systems and platforms for my team to help while I am away. I made space to actually be present and learn about the culture. That's intentionality. And honestly, this applies to all of you in the apparel decorating industry, right? So when customer orders come in for apparel, don't just ask what they want printed. Ask what they're trying to accomplish. What's the intent behind the order? Is it a fundraiser apparel order meant to build community? Is it merch that's supposed to create excitement around a brand launch? Is it a team hoodie that a kid will want to wear over and over and over again? These are the questions you should be asking, because when you understand the intention, you stop acting like an order taker and start acting like a creative partner. So maybe that means suggesting a sleeve print instead of a left chest. I know, very polarizing. Maybe it means adding captain's patches and custom packaging, matching bags, and water bottles to a team order. Maybe it means creating an experience instead of just decorating a garment. So that's where the real value comes from, in my opinion, when we're talking about intentionality. Your intention in business shouldn't simply to be, quote, make money. Obviously, we need to make money. We all look for that, but money is the result. The real intention should be, how do I build the best apparel decorating business to work with and work for? How do I create experiences people remember? How do I become intentional instead of reactive? Because businesses that operate with intention create better products, they create better customer relationships, they build better internal teams, and ultimately this leads to better results, which means more profit. Don't generalize your goals. Be specific, be deliberate, stop confusing being busy with being intentional. And that's my secret sauce for this week.
Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Cassie. We really appreciate it. So make sure that, again, you guys are checking out the Apparelist, apparelist.com, and that's where you can find more from Cassie. But we appreciate her being the first secret sauce outside of our normal rotation. So this is really good stuff, Terry.
Absolutely. And as I said at the beginning, she brings the good stuff.
She does every time. All right. Well, Terry, I think this has been a great show. So we've come to the close of this show. Appreciate the time, and what a great conversation, Terry. I had a blast doing this.
Me too. Good stuff. We also want to thank our show producer, Eric Campbell, for all he does, keeping us on the air, pushing those buttons, and turning those wheels. Thanks, Eric.
Yes, much appreciated, sir. And looking forward to being back live with him next week. And speaking of next week, Terry, we are still working on a good show for everybody. We got a couple of different options that we're kicking around. So if there's anything that you guys want to hear, or people you want us to interview, or topics that you need us to cover, we're here to help you guys. 14 years of doing this. We need your help finding some new episodes and whatnot. So let us know. Go to info@tworegularguys.com and send us an email there.
All right. Until then, I'm Terry Combs. He's Aaron Montgomery.
And that was the Two Regular Guys.
Here we go. We're out. Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Two Regular Guy. We're here because of listeners like you, and we're so grateful to have you on this journey with us. For more valuable insight, be sure to visit our website, 2regularguys.com, and join the conversation on our Facebook page. And hey, if you or someone you know has expertise, a unique perspective, or a story worth sharing, we'd love to have them as a guest on the show. Just reach out. Remember, success in this industry isn't just about the equipment you own or the techniques you've mastered. It's about the mindset you bring and the connections you build. Keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to think differently. Keep pressing on, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Two Regular Guys.